Janine, welcome in your role as Chief Counsel at the Office of the Fair Work Ombudsman. Love to have a chat about returning to work, and this is one of the most common questions and topic areas that I think is raised by women. So can we start, when returning to work from parental leave, what are your rights to return back to work and to your role?
Absolutely. So, when you take a period of maternity leave, there is an entitlement to come back to the job that you left. In some circumstances, a job mightn't be available for whatever reason, in which case the employer must return you to a role which is suitable for your qualifications, but also equally in terms of status and pay as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So can you return, so if in that situation, if they find a like or a similar role, can they reduce your pay?
No. So there is that requirement that when you come back, it's not only the pay needs to be equivalent, but also the status of the role as well. So I think that's quite important, because sometimes, the status of the role can actually mean a lot in terms of your promotional opportunities in the future too.
So what if your same role doesn't exist? Does that mean that you're now redundant?
No, so if your same role doesn't exist, there's still that entitlement for you to return to a role which is equivalent in terms of pay and looking also at status as well. Redundancy can happen, and it does happen, and that really enlivens a whole lot of other kind of rights and obligations as well, with respect whether or not you're on maternity leave or not.
So just on that then, if we talk about redundancy, if I am made redundant while I'm on maternity leave, what should I expect from my employer?
Well, look, if you look at the workplace relations awards and agreements, they all make provision that the employer needs to get in contact with you. It doesn't matter that you're on leave, they need to get in contact with you, and they need to talk to you about these changes. We call it major change, and clearly something which involves redundancy is a major change. So you can expect to be contacted in those circumstances and consulted with respect to what is going on.
And if you are made redundant, say you're 7 months into your parental leave, and unfortunately, you're in this situation, what are your entitlements? Are you still entitled to the paid parental leave or, leave? What are your entitlements?
So yeah, I think you're really going to depend on the facts and circumstances, but there are minimum entitlements contained in the Fair Work Act. And certainly if you find yourself in a situation of redundancy like that when you're on maternity leave, you need to get advice and make sure you know what those are, and make sure that you're actually going to be receiving them from your employer. So you should get in contact with us, or otherwise give us a call on 1394. Sure.
So in the situation where I'm offered a similar role, because my old role doesn't exist, do I have to accept that?
Well, it depends on the reasons why you're choosing not to accept that particular role. So that the entitlement, if you like, is a role of equivalent status and same pay. And so if it does meet that criteria, then that's the right that you're seeking to enforce, if you like, and that's the role that you would need to consider going back into.
Yeah, sure. What if someone replaces me while I'm on parental leave, and next thing they're put into the role permanently?
Yeah, and you know what? That happened in one of our litigation matters.
Wow.
We actually had a matter where someone came to go back into their role, and it had been occupied by someone else, and they weren't willing to provide it to her, and that's not legal conduct. So when someone goes on maternity leave, there is a requirement for the employer to tell the incumbent, the new person coming into the role, that this is a maternity leave position, this is a temporary role, and they need to be vacated upon your return back to the workplace.
Yeah, right. So what if I want to return earlier or later than expected?
And that happens all the time for a range of reasons. Yeah. So, if you want to come back earlier, you need to give your employer 4 weeks notice so that they can deal with things like people who are in the role, for example, and so on. And just say you're doing that within a 12-month period, then you can do that once, and the employer has to accept that extension within that 12-month period.
Yeah, okay. So I'd love to cover a couple of real examples with you now. I was in a full-time role until I took 9 months off on maternity leave. I agreed to come back part-time initially and then transition back to full-time over a few months. After 3 months of working 4 days a week, I advised that I then was ready to return to my full-time role. The company refused my request to return to full-time, saying that there now wasn't enough work to go around. This is a large global company with over 4,000 employees worldwide. Did I have a right to keep my full-time role?
This was a very interesting kind of scenario, because within that 12-month period, this particular lady having already come back after 9 months and graduate, and a lot of us do that, graduate back into full-time work. The short answer is we think that there could be discrimination here, and that potentially this person might be able to pursue something in this particular scenario, because it's within that 12-month period and the agreement was in place and there was that entitlement to return to the original position.
Yeah, interesting. The next is, I'm planning on returning to work in January 2018. My contract of employment was as a part-time employee in childcare. My employer has just contacted me and told me that they no longer have part-time employees and I'm now required to work full-time. Are they able to do this?
I think that this employee is entitled to return to the job that she left, which was a part-time role, and that she does actually have that entitlement to return on that part-time basis. So I think that employee should contact us and we can have a chat about what she might think to do next.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. Thank you, and terrific conversation. And of course, we encourage all of our members to contact you on the number if they need any advice or support.
Thank you.
Thank you.